Hi guys, this is my new channel. I just want to cover the markets. So let's go straight into it. I'll be focusing on the metals. Now everything follows the general market, so we have to start with the SPY and the other markets. So I actually feel like we're going to go back down again. We've had a nice bounce to previous support. They're all following the same general trend. So the SPY, Dow, both got about 7% drop. The NASDAQ, as this was destroyed more than the others, it's had a stronger bounce, but there's only 8% to go back down to test the lows. The Russell is pretty similar. I think this is also about 8%, maybe a bit more. So you can see the downtrend is still there. We've, in this case, perfectly tested previous support. I think we're stalling and the trend is intact to go back down and test the prior lows. So it's been a nice dead cat bounce, but I think the markets are going to roll over and at least test the previous lows. I mean, I'd be very surprised if it doesn't do that. Now, since we're looking at the metals, the dollar should also be analyzed. I don't like to have too many trend lines, but these are more longer term time frames I've got here. We can see the dollar DXY tested 105, very strong. It's retraced a bit, but I wouldn't be surprised if it keeps going, at least test 105 again. If the market goes down, the dollar tends to rally, so it could go back up. If it goes back down, that would support the metals a bit, but I do think it will at least go sideways, if not up. But even if it drops back down to 99, it's still in an uptrend. So, and it generally follows, you can see the 10-year, these are the yields. So a very similar pattern. In fact, if we look at the 10-year and just zoom out on the weekly, we can see it's been one great move. 3.24, I think, was resistance. We've broken the long-term downtrend line. I wouldn't be surprised if it just goes sideways, but if we start to break out of 3.24, that's pretty aggressive. So, I mean, next would be what, 4% really. You'd probably get there quite quickly. Yeah, I wonder what would happen to the market if yields start going up to 4%. That would be, would we invert again? So, need to keep an eye on that. Otherwise, look at gold and silver. It's generally been pretty strong compared to the rest of the market. Now, when everything goes down, everything goes down. I mean, gold, notwithstanding, it's taken a bit of a hit, but overall, pretty strong. You consider what's happened to the rest of the market. Silver's been a bit weaker, which tends to always happen. So if gold goes up, silver goes up more. If gold goes down, silver goes down more. I still think gold is pretty solid. Even though this trend line has been broken, I think we got quite a lot of support. I mean, 1780. What have we got? 1730. Then ultimate support 1680. For this to go all the way back down here, I can only imagine a total market rout, which is possible. But what a buying opportunity. If we zoom out, it's still been a pretty strong trend. I think if it went back here, it would have nice support. I mean, even if it went lower, it would still be solid. But you get a lot of selling pressure on the way back up. But I think gold is pretty strong. My personal thesis is that, well, I actually want the market to go down. I'm a bit greedy. I sold quite a few of my miners. Well, I've trimmed them. I've trimmed them on the way up and on the way down. I hope to get them a bit lower. But for the miners, obviously, we should be looking at the GDX, GDXJ. GDX is more for the seniors. They have the same pattern at the moment. I mean, GDXJ, it's a bit like silver versus gold. The GDXJ is just a stronger version on the way up and on the way down. We just look at the GDXJ, solid, it's really held. I mean, it's come down about 30% since its recent peak, which is substantial. But if you consider what's happened to the market, it's not that bad. The last few days been relatively strong outperformer, I would say. But you look at these last couple of days, it's bounced I don't know, what is it, 8, 9, 10%, a bit like the market did, a bit more than the market, but it's following the exact same pattern. I mean, you know, as much as we love gold and silver, if the market goes down, they go down. It's very rare that you have days where they go up when the market goes down. We had that a bit in the past, but at the moment, especially when it's a total market rout, everyone just sells everything. It's all about liquidity. The dollar is king. As much as we think the dollar is fundamentally flawed, it's, you know, the dollar is king when things are just chaotic. So I think if the SPY, as we were looking at the beginning, if the general markets go down, if you remember this pattern, you know, very similar. So if I, and my thesis is that it will go back down to test the lows. I really think that these will also go down, test the lows. So let's say at least 30 on the GDX, 36, let's say, you know, whatever it is, GDXJ. And in my case, I would love a flush. I have got a bit of cash. I got about 35% of the portfolio in cash, and I don't want to hold dollars this whole time. You know, long term, I want to deploy that in some quality names. I could show you my portfolio, at least the stocks I'm watching. I'm not an expert in juniors or seniors. I've been in about 10 years trading this market and this sector, and I've been lucky enough to sell some losers and buy some winners overall. I've learned to spread the risk, and I mean, I do like these aggressive silver ones, CDE, FSM. You can see they obviously they follow the same GDXJ, silver, gold chart patterns, but these four up here, these are my aggressive silver holdings. And I mean, they all have similar chart patterns. Alesco's actually been pretty weak recently, but its bounce has been okay up here. I just trimmed it the other day, just here at 88. And whatever I sell, I intend to buy back, and even a bit more. Generally, my philosophy is to trim on the way up, and obviously to buy on the way down, but to buy more than I sell. So these top four up here really are my sort of silver aggressive holdings, but I have the same amount also in these for Yamana, which got bought by Gold Fields the other day. It's been pretty strong. I call it a senior. It's not really a senior, but it's been acting like a senior pretty high. I mean, if you look at the other stocks, the general market stocks, they're all crushed. Some of them 80%. So, you know, I'm happy to be holding some relative outperformers. Agnico Eagle, I mean, it's been holding out quite well. Wheaton, I like my royalties also. Strong business model, especially when you're going through this type of market turmoil. It's good to own some stocks that are strong, good cash flow. Pan American Silver, more risky bet, but still a senior. First Majestic, you're probably familiar with some of these. So these are my sort of gold and silver stocks. And again, I intend to buy if they go back down. Now, if they keep going up, you know, I still hold a decent amount. So, you know, it's not the worst thing to make a bit of money. I still think that we're going to reach a lot of resistance. So I'll be selling at relative trend lines. I mean, they all follow the same GDX, GDXJ charts, but they all have their own individual, you know, resistance points that at least I think I can identify. So I mean, if this was to go up in 1 or 2 weeks, I'd be selling just under 13, maybe just trimming it. I mean, I would constantly trim, you know, 25%. So I'm still holding if it goes all the way up, which is totally unrealistic without a bit of a retracement. So yeah, these are some of my stocks. This one here, actually, I don't like Anglo Gold. I want to just sell the full position. I want to really consolidate and only hold seniors that I truly trust. Not that I know them that well, it's just Anglo Gold. It's had some bad news recently, and I just don't trust it as much as I do Wheaton, for example. So this is Gran Colombia, one that I like, but I wouldn't consider a senior, so therefore I don't hold as much. In all honesty, I hold about $4,000 in about all of these, and it gets to about 3.5 here, and here it's about 3K in the rest of these. This one not so much. Heliostar, it's just come down a lot. Trillium is also one I really like. It's just been crushed. That's worth about 2.5K. I want to move it up to 3K. And I mean, you always look at how much you can make on the way up, but when you learn from experience, it's not the best way to look at it. It's all about money management. How much can you lose? And obviously, this has come down a lot. I did trade it quite well, so I made a bit of profit. Overall, I don't even know if I'm down on it, but I got about 2.5K in it. And you think, oh my God, if it goes all the way up back up to 50, which is very reasonable, it could almost 100%, But I would sell someday, and I'd sell some up here at 80. I'd sell, I don't know, 30% here. It keeps going up, I'd sell even more likely to just come down. But again, we need to look at the GDX, the GDXJ, and for that, you need to look at the SPY, the NASDAQ, and the dollar. So I think because they're influenced by these other stocks, it's quite useful. You get a bit of an advantage. It's not just totally random. But again, if this has some news, for example, I'm sure it'll move up, and that's when I think it would have to adhere to its own stock trend lines, which I think 50 cents is one noticeable trend line here. I think that would be resistance, also psychological resistance. So I am looking at these individual stock trend lines. Fortitude is another one I like. It has not come down that much, but I just think there's more upside in others, so I don't have too much in this. It's been pretty strong for a junior. At least I consider it a junior. I think the next trend line also here is 50 cents, then maybe 60, and then we'll see. I can't imagine it sustaining itself above 60 without coming back down. So Rain Silver. I mean, I don't have that much in this, and I always wanted to add more, so I don't mind it coming all the way back down here. The bad thing about this is you don't really have any history beyond, where we are now, so it's quite hard for me to read it. So I think I would just follow the GDX, GDXJ. Maybe a star again. This is a junior. I don't have too much in these juniors, so I'm more concerned with what happens in the top sort of 12 stocks here. But I think this I did actually add recently down here, but I'm looking for a little move up, and I just want to be all out. I don't follow the news that much. I think there was some good news up here. It came back down. I think news is overrated, good and bad. So I just like to look at the charts a bit. I think I don't know. I feel like it can go back up, but again, if the market goes back down, I can't see, it buck the trend. So, these are my gold stocks, gold and silver stocks that I hold. I have a nice watch list. I have deleted a lot recently because I'm just not interested in these juniors. I used to be, get wowed by how much upside, but I just don't have the time to read the news, to follow the message boards, not that you should, or to phone the CEO. Sometimes for these little juniors, they say that, if you pick up the phone and phone the CEO, they'll tell you about it. I want something that I can estimate a bit with a bit more certainty, I want something that's established. These, for example, what I call seniors, I don't know if they're all seniors, but they're established minds. They've been here for a long time. And it's just, they're not going to go bankrupt overnight or have some catastrophe news that just puts the whole project in doubt. These are my junior miners that I thought are worthy of a watch list, but I really am, especially in this downtrend, I'm looking to get rid of the losers and to buy the winners. I think, if you look at some of these juniors, they've been destroyed. They've been totally destroyed. Some really shitty mines have been destroyed, along with good mines. The same percentage. They've both gone down 50%. Well, why not take the money, the 50% lost, and just put it into a good mine? Because they both lost the same amount. So had you put that money in a good mine, you would have lost the same amount. So it's kind of an opportunity where there are some opportunities where you can get rid of some shitty mines and buy some good ones. So, well, I'm losing my train of thought. But anyway, these are my miners. I do also hold some other alternative stocks. I won't really go into those at the moment. I want to just stick to the miners. Just let me know what you think. Maybe you have some ideas on some of these miners. One of them isn't good, or maybe you have some disagreement over where you think the miners are going to go. Let me know. I think it's always interesting to to exchange ideas. But yeah, that's what I think for now. I think the GDXJs will come back down. I hope they do. If they don't, I'm looking to sell a bit more, you know. But I do think that the general markets will go lower. They have to test, they have to, they should test their lows. And I think if that happens, I think the miners can go back down a little 10%. And I would definitely be looking to add a bit, you know, and hopefully they go even lower. Because I think long term, resources in general, commodities, amazing story. I think that fundamentally, you know, with inflation and just generally commodities, totally undervalued. So I look forward to that if it happens. But let's see what happens.